So the third and final phase of the American Revolution really begs the question, what makes the American Revolution truly revolutionary? And one thing to look at is it's introducing a new kind of combat, but also it has an impact on mobilizing and politicizing large groups of the population who previously remained aloof from the struggle. So this is the first time that the British government is fully supporting the American Revolution. The British are going to try to enlist support of loyalists, and that will mean they're going to shift their focus to the South because that's where they had a large population of loyalists. Basically, the British believe the majority of Americans were still loyal to the crown. The other big piece in this phase is that the war is expanding into previously isolated communities, forcing civilians to involve themselves in a conflict that they had not previously needed to. Because they're going to focus on the South, you will have the Southern Campaign. So at this point, you have Benedict Arnold, who Americans see as a traitor switching to the side of the British, which is a fascinating story if you really want to get into it, looking at John Honores of the British and Peggy Shiplin, Benedict Arnold's wife, who also then is seen as a potential female spy for the British. So Benedict Arnold was convinced that the colonial cause itself was helpless, and so that's why he was starting to conspire with British agents to betray the Patriots, especially at the stronghold of West Point. The scheme unravels, and before it could be carried out, he will end up fleeing to a British camp. But the Southern Campaign itself is 1778 to 1781, the British troops moving through the southern colonies, fighting battles in an attempt to neutralize this territory. However, the British overestimated the loyalist sentiment. So this brings us to the Battle of Yorktown, which is the last major battle of the American Revolution. However, it's important to note that it is not the last battle. There are minor skirmishes that will take place after Yorktown. So September to October of 1781, George Washington, along with some of his French counterparts, such as Rochambeau, and de Grasse, will set up a trap to basically capture the British commander Cornwallis at Yorktown. They are meeting up with Lafayette, another French individual, with his forces in Virginia, and they are able to capture Cornwallis between the land and the sea. Again, this will end the fighting in the war, but there will be some skirmishes. So it is the last major battle of the American Revolution. So here you can see why it would be important for where they were capturing Cornwallis, because it's Yorktown, Virginia. We're off of the coast of the Virginia colonies. So ending the war. This war ends with the Treaty of Paris of 1783. So remember, there was a Treaty of Paris that ended the 7 Years' War, which is why it's important to acknowledge the dates of these Treaty of Parises, because there are so many of them. So the Treaty of Paris, the main diplomats were Ben Franklin, John Jay, and John Adams. And this will take place September 3rd, 1783. It will grant clear-cut recognition of independence and cession of territories south of Canada to north of Florida, and then also from the Atlantic to the Mississippi River. Britain will give up the Trans-Appalachian regions. However, native populations will reject this, as they stated, our lands and our life and our breath. The American colonists will ignore this and threaten to push natives into what will become reservations. So again, the U.S. government at this point, or the colonial government, is asserting sovereignty and ownership of the Trans-Appalachian when it takes it from the British. And because the natives had never been conquered and they were not participants in the treaty, they were not acknowledging this. So again, you have a Creek chief who can be quoted as saying, "If we part with them, we part with our blood," going back to that connection that native populations have to the land and their environment. So here you see a revised map of what will become U.S. territory based on the Treaty of Paris. So here we have our 13 original colonies, and then after the 7 Years' War, you gained this red line, the Proclamation Line, and now at the Treaty of Paris, it has expanded to the Mississippi River. However, the Spanish still are in control of Florida, and you still have British to the north in Canada. So things you want to be thinking about: what potential issues do you see for the Americans with this newly found land, territory, and ability to create their own government systems.